You're watching League Podcast Special Edition, Free Comic Book Day Edition, other stuff. I'm Matt Dursin, and with me, newly minted stand-up comedian, Clay Ferno.
Clay and Ferno here, and yeah, you're listening, you're watching. Here we are doing a special edition podcast. Now, it was confusing to me a little bit because you sent me a text that was like, "Can we talk about Free Comic Book Day?" So I was like, "Sure," but why are you texting me about it now? Like that's in May. I didn't know. I didn't know you wanted. I eventually figured out that you wanted to do a podcast within the next couple of days and not like a podcast for Free Comic Book Day when it happens. So I'm just happy that I figured it out myself.
Oh, well done. Well, you've been busy. I just wanted to say congratulations. You had a show, the Clay Inferno Variety Hour the other night. Just put together entirely by you. Now, usually you're like behind the scenes, putting shows together and making shows happen. But now you were out in front and you were on stage telling jokes.
And that wasn't all that happened there. I was, I guess, the headliner. And as we were talking before, since I knew at it, I kind of went over my own allotted time. But, whatever. It's fine. It's fine. Who cares? Yeah, I rented the venue. We booked Devastation. She sang a song, did some burlesque. Jeannie Martini did burlesque. Steph Dahlwin did some comedy. Duncan Wilder Johnson, my old friend who I did spoken word with. So like spoken word is like not that different from stand-up comedy. It's like going up there and telling stories. And so I do have a lot of experience doing that. But yeah, and DJ Panda. And you were there helping. Thank you again for working the door and helping us with the tech stuff as Ultimate Durson. But it was great time. Worst weather like all year in this terrible cold winter here in North Dakota.
Yeah.
But people came out, they bought tickets and we had a great time. And yeah, my first stand-up experience, and I think I'll do it again. I was like not that nervous to do it as far as like being on stage, but in order to do like your comic book, you wanted to make a comic book and you made your first one. So like, like you didn't know what it was going to be like until you did the whole thing. So now I've done the whole thing.
Yeah. No, it was great. It's funny. Like, I guess some people do have stage fright or whatever. They don't want to be standing in front of them. There's
most people do.
I guess that's true. That is the number one fear, they say, right? Public speaking is the number one fear. And number two is death. So, but
number three is doing a number two or a number one
in public. No,
on a number one, public speaking, and then you do a number two.
Right.
That's number three.
But I mean, I think a lot of comedians will say like they want to make sure they get the laughs and you know what I mean? Like, or whatever. It's not so much being up there, but it's kind of like, are they going to laugh? Are they going to think it's funny? So I remember Steve Martin said he once did a show and he had gone 20 minutes and he realized he had not gotten one laugh. And he's like, well, why don't I just go for the record? The full, maybe I won't get it. But like that was early in his career, obviously. But yeah, I mean, it's
but that, cool thing, I mean, though. that happened to me though. I mean, there was things that I thought were funny that, maybe some people thought they were funny and didn't want to laugh, but there was definitely like some moments on stage where like I was like getting a lot of feedback, like, oh, I was like, okay. And that through my very long set, like people were responding and laughing, but there are other things that I was like, okay, I either need to not tell that joke or that joke just didn't work on these people. And maybe I'll try it on some other people or whatever,
Well, yeah, that's the thing too. Audiences are different.
Yeah, we have that same sort of like, we obviously like the same kind of comedy. Like we like everything from, Python to Carlin to classic SNL and just all these people we've seen. Yeah, Steve Martin, like all those guys, like, and I listened to a lot of comedy when I was growing up. Like, I probably wanted to do stand up since I was a kid. So like, it took me 40 years to actually do a stand up set, do it spoken word aside. Like here, I finally, I'm just glad that like, I finally like bucket list, check it off. I did a stand up set.
Yeah, there you go. You broke your cherry. You did a stand up. So anyway, yeah, I hope you do it again. I'll be there. It's very fun. I've always had this sort of thing too, where I was like, I wonder what it's like, you know. But I mean, I'm sure it's not even like, it's one thing to be like, I want to be a stand-up, but I mean, to get gigs or whatever, you know, I mean, it's got to be hard. But
yeah, I mean, I'm not going to make it a lifestyle or a career choice, certainly. But I do want to. I have been thinking like, oh, there's like some open mics and stuff. Like maybe I'll go try it in front of some like less friend. Like I only mean less friendly because there was like literally a lot of my friends and family like in the room. But like, what is it? What is this like to do it in front of complete strangers? Or whatever, you know?
That's true. That's like another step.
And I wasn't going to mention this, but I was going to mention it to you on the side, and this is only tangentially related, but there's an awesome thing on Netflix that I think everybody should watch. It's the Will Ferrell and Harper Steele movie, like Harper and Will. Have you seen this?
No, I have not.
Yeah. Okay, so I have to set up the whole story because it's quite interesting, special, and like related to what I was just talking about, because there was this guy, Oliver Steele, and he's like, basically when Will Ferrell got to SNL, they became really good buds, like in the writer's room, because Will was new and he was like a writer. And then all the ridiculous stuff like that Will Ferrell do, like the cowbell thing and
right,
the Goulet sketch and everything, like his writing partner basically. And then like during the pandemic, Oliver transitioned to be Harper, and
okay.
So Harper revealed that to Will, and then what they did was like Oliver used to go and do a lot of road trips around the country and go into like, you know, not like sketchy bars, but we just like drive around the country and like feel safe and go into bars and just hang out with, you know, from in Texas and Oklahoma and wherever, like just driving across country. And so what they did was Will and Harper like took a trip basically so that Will could like meet this new friend of his, Harper. And it's honestly a very, very funny documentary, but also like very not sad, but like very touching. Like I literally cried like while I was watching it. It was so good. And because Harper goes to some of these places and bars where she would have gone to under her old
Oliver.
name.
Right.
Yes. And then Harper's like, and then also a unique thing about it is that like everybody knows Will Ferrell, so he in a way can kind of like take the heat off if things were like gonna go bad. If they were in a place where people weren't so friendly to trans people or something like that.
Yeah, right.
So that like kind of plays like a role in the movie, but also like, so Harper's like, no, I'm gonna go into this bar down south and just by myself. Will you be outside and I'll call you when I think that you can come in, because this is a place I used to go in.
Right.
And now I'm going in as Harper and I want to see how they, but also like, how do I react? So anyways, not comparing myself to that situation at all, but I want to see when I can do my stand up in front of people that I don't know at all. You know what I mean? That'll be a way different thing than in a very friendly room with like friends. People I even asked to perform were my friends or whatever. So
right.
but I
Well,
highly
yeah.
recommend Harper and Will.
All
It's on
right.
Netflix. It's got a lot of your favorite SNL people in it too. So it's really good.
Cool.
Really
All
good.
right. Well, yeah, we'll check it out. Yeah. So the reason I texted you just because there was there's been a lot of news, and I don't know about you, but like people, because they know I'm a comic guy. I got at least 3 or 4 people who are like, "Hey, what do you think of Diamond going bankrupt?" I don't know if anybody asked you this, but it was weird. It was like kind of weird, random people being like, "Hey, what do you think of this Diamond thing?" And I was like, "What?" I mean, I don't think of it, but
Yeah, I
okay.
mean, I saw the news and I hadn't thought of it really all that much until you texted about it. I I because I don't collect comics every week anymore, and
Right.
we've seen our favorite comic book store kind of like sell itself off to be not even a store anymore, like other people buying the stores for New England comics, and it's just everything's so different now, and like I read digital and I get my, and I know Diamond is like the hub of like, so when I'm getting my comics from TFAW, which is a comic book store, it's an online
Right.
store, but they have a real store too, I think.
They
Um,
do. Yes.
so like I know that affects me getting my GI Joe comics, but I really didn't think about it at all. I like didn't think
Right.
anything of it, you know?
I didn't either. Yeah, I haven't. I don't. Yeah, like just like you said, like all of the stores I used to go to weekly have all closed pretty much. There's still a couple stores that I could go to, but I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to get them through the mail through TFAW, like you said. And yeah, obviously it will impact it probably. I mean, so it just so people, if people don't know, Diamond Comics Distributors, which basically distributes everything. Although I think Marvel and DC have basically said like, we'll just do it ourselves, and that helped. That probably contributed to why they're bankrupt, and their assets are going up for bid in March, and one of those assets includes the property of Free Comic Book Day, which was or is technically there's still a website that says Free Comic Book Day 2025 May 3rd, and these are the books that are coming out and everything. And there's been a lot of talk, and some of the things that I follow online or whatever, like, is it going to be a thing? Should it even, like, do we even need it anymore? Did it even matter? Did it draw in the new readers like they were hoping? And I don't know, like, so I kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit, because not only because like, oh, the industry of comics or whatever, but like personally, we used to like get together and
Yeah.
like go to lunch and go to some stores and just kind of walk around. It was kind of an excuse to hang out. Obviously, we weren't the target audience because we were already fans, but like,
Right.
yeah, we would get together, grab lunch, go to some stores, grab some comics, talk to people.
There was a movie element to it as well, right? Like they would always release a
Yeah.
big superhero movie that
Yeah.
day.
It started in 2002 when Spider-Man, the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, was released, and it was like in conjunction with that. And yeah, like I think pretty much every year, I don't know if it's every year, but most years there's a comic book movie coming out the first Saturday in May or the first weekend of May, and that's when they do it. But I don't know if they don't like co-promote it like they used to, like it used to be like a big thing, like, and
Well,
now it's kind of
also,
like,
yeah, I mean, the when we started doing the podcast all together, those were the things we were excited about. It was like the new superhero movie, the new but we'd also be very excited about the Free Comic Book Day books because they would be exclusive and they'd be free. And like
free. Yeah.
go to like a couple of different stores and like try to get the ones you need or whatever. You know what I mean? Like only
Right.
the um
Oh, sure.
and
There's a
yeah,
new
I think
Avengers or whatever.
I did one. I think it's on my YouTube where Stacy and I did it one year. We did the Free Comic Book Day in Harvard Square. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, but I was way more excited, not just about comic books and stuff, but we're like really entrenched in it for like a few years. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah. Oh, I think it's many years. I even had a couple of signings when I was doing Robin Hood.
That's
Yeah,
right,
like
Robin Hood.
in the store on Free Comic Day. I think it was the only time I made any actual money because people would be coming in. And of course, I always had people were like, "Oh, is this free?" Like, no, it's not. But it was fun, and yeah, people would pay for me, for my comic, but then they would, get the free stuff and whatever. And then I think the stores would always kind of have the quarter bin would suddenly become like, oh, you can get those for free or whatever. So
Yeah, or like deep discount, like
right, there were always sales and stuff.
Better than a quarter or whatever. Like, yeah. And our friends, Hannah and Matt, when they were at the New England Comics and the Prime, Harvard Square Prime,
yeah,
they would make a big deal about it. They would have candy and they would hire some cosplayers to come down in like cool superhero outfits. There's plenty of pictures of us posing with those people or taking pictures of the cosplayers. Like, yeah, it was like a big deal. It's fun.
yeah.
Free Comic Book Day is fun. Is the world fun? No. Do we need to have it anymore? I don't know. I don't know if we need to have it anymore.
Well,
like
personally, right? Like, it doesn't really impact us probably either way, right? But it was a fun excuse to get together. But I mean, I was reading some stuff like certain retailers were saying like that is like the busiest day of the year for my store is Free
right.
Comic Book Day. You get people coming in who wouldn't normally come in, and but they still had to pay for those free comics and paid it for the shipping and stuff like that. The companies had to pay to produce the Marvel and DC and all the other. I mean, every major company participated. So, but they all had to pay the creative team. They had to pay the to produce these comics. So they weren't free for everybody. They were free for the fans, and the idea was to draw in new readers. And also, Diamond would apparently, from what I read today, they would take a loss on that every year. And some people think since they've been doing it since 2002, they're like $50 million in debt. Not all attributed to Free Comic Day, but I mean, it looked. One person said they saw like a sheet that said like Diamond's loss leader, whatever, $20,000 was what Diamond lost every year on Free Comic Book Day. So I'm not saying that's why they're going bankrupt, but I mean, it didn't help.
So a contributing factor. I mean,
right.
like most business runs on debt anyways. And like they try to make it's a thing where like maybe somebody runs like a hot dog shack or an ice cream shack in the summertime, like they don't make any money the rest of the year.
Right.
But they could maybe make the money in those 3 months, or like even just like, it's like 1% of like the company's profit goes toward like making the Free Comic Book Day comics, like you said, like paying the creators, paying to get it printed, from all sides, like the distribution, the comic shops buying it, whatever. It probably is just like kind of like, yeah, we have to pay this, but it really is worth it for like, the markup on when somebody that's never been to the comic book store buys like a $500 like anime statue. And it's like, well, that's like more sales we would have all month.
Well, that's the hope, right? I mean, that people would come in and buy something rather than people coming in, taking their free comics and leaving and maybe never coming back until next year. Possibly. I'm sure there was some of that, like.
Well, yeah, I would always try to, even at let's just say, I'm trying to say this politely. It's not really a good way to. let's just say we had our prime store, but it was close to 3 or 4 other very good stores.
You used to call it the Bermuda Triangle of stores.
But like, I don't want to call anyone out specifically. So we go to our store, grab stuff, maybe buy some stuff there. I would actually probably try to buy at least a book that I was already looking for, didn't find or didn't pick up, or was like vaguely interested in those stores. Like, I'd feel bad. Or then the classic, the thing that happened to you at your comic book day signings, where somebody's like, is this free?
Yeah.
I think that's maybe the time that somebody handed me that a comic, and then they were like, and I was like, cool. And we were presenting ourselves as like press at the time or whatever. So it's you know, that'll be $5. Like,
after he's already handed it to you.
You handed it to me. You know what I mean? Like, there's that tragic story, but like, also, I did that. Maybe I would have gone to the biggest store in that Pentagon and maybe didn't buy anything because I wanted to make sure I had already grabbed 2 from this one and that one, and I still needed to get the Doctor Who. So I go over there and like not buy anything from the big chain store.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that. Yeah, like I wouldn't feel compelled to buy something from that big chain store because that whatever. But like, our Prime, I would buy something in addition to taking a couple of the free ones because, whatever. But like, I feel like that way anyway, and which is probably good that I don't go to comic book stores much anymore because I never really felt like I could just leave without buying anything. I always felt like I should buy something. But yeah, I mean, I also was reading some retailers like, like you buy, because there's a minimum. They had to order a minimum amount of free comics. I don't know, thousands, or whatever. And they said like we would have stacks of them left over for weeks or never get rid of them. So
there would probably always be like just a book that no one cared about, like
Scooby-Doo or something, or
Scooby-Doo, or like maybe
no offense.
Even I'm just trying to think of like, it would be like an obscure publisher almost like Arcane, and it's like, it would be like a Dungeons and Dragons like type book that wasn't Dungeons and Dragons, and they would just probably have to sit on those forever, or just like John, throw them in the recycling bin.
Eventually, probably throw them away. Yeah, I mean, 2002. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what any of the books were. Most of the time, I just like, the cover looks cool. But I think once there was like a specific, I think one of that Enertron universe or whatever, maybe a couple years ago. I don't know, but there was never anything that I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to go and get that free comic book. But yeah, it's funny too, going back to what you were saying earlier, because my first issue of my comic, I didn't have a cover price. I just thought, pay what you feel is appropriate. And there were people who were just like, my Radiohead philosophy. And there were people who felt that the appropriate price was nothing, and they just took the book and left. So, but for every person who did that, there was somebody who's like, hey, it's $20, which is way more than what a comic, should cost. So, but yeah, there were definitely people who were like, oh, okay, thanks. And then they just left. I'm like, that's not really the spirit of what I'm trying to do. But yeah, I remember in those years talking to the store employees and stuff, and because it was always kind of like there were like a wall of free comics, and they'd be like, well, you could take like one of those and one of those and one of those, but you can't take like that whole row or whatever. And it's just like, jeez, I don't know. It almost seemed too structured too at times. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's like other shops that just let you grab whatever you wanted.
Right.
They're free comic book days. First come, first serve. Somebody comes in, grabs 10 comics. They're not going to I think it was probably like kind of, they figured out after doing it since 2002, like we can't just let everybody have a free for all.
Right. Yeah, I think that's it. But that bigger chain store that we were talking about, I think it was anything goes there. But the smaller stores are like, yeah, we want to save it so everybody gets what they want. But I mean, well, like we were saying though, I don't know how well any of it works because like a lot of the stores around here have closed. Like we don't even go anymore. We get our comics either digitally or in the mail or whatever. So
I think there's a new store.
Ever.
I think there's a new store in Coolidge Corner, which like that I know about. I've never been there, but it looks like a place I would shop. And it's not far away, and I could easily go there. But I've never even been there. It's been open for more than a year.
Yeah, I know. It's been a while. I've been there, and they have a lot of like fancy stuff, like fancy toys and stuff. I don't think if you wanted to get like your weekly, like new comics, it's the best place. But I don't know because I only went there a couple times. But
you could probably do a sub there, though.
I probably could if you
want to do
I've
a
never
sub, you could get it.
Yeah, if I wanted to, I could probably do it. But like, yeah, if you want to buy that $500 anime statue, they probably have it. So that's the kind of store, I guess, that I don't know, but like I don't even know, like they must participate in Free Comic Book Day, but I don't know if they like, I don't know. I've never been there on Free Comic Day, but it's an interesting thing. I don't even know. One of the questions I saw was like, do we need it and whatever? But like maybe it could exist in another form, or something, because it doesn't seem to. There are so many people who probably just come in and take free stuff and leave. And the idea is like, maybe you read it and go, oh, this comic's kind of cool. Maybe I should buy some, but I don't know. I don't know if it works, but I was thinking back to that. You remember the Read Comics in Public Day podcast that we did?
Right.
Roaming around.
That wasn't Free Comic Book Day, though. It was a different day, right?
It was like August something. And our store, the New England Comics in Harvard Square, gave us a box of comics to walk around and give away. And we made a podcast out of it. And I thought that was pretty fun. And I don't, I don't remember much about it. I mean, this was probably like almost 15 years ago now. But I mean, the comics were free to those people. And then we just be like, hey, you like comics? And they'd be like, everybody was like, yeah. Like nobody's like, what? No, I don't want this. But it was kind of fun. So I don't know if there's a way to do something like that or something, I don't know. Instead of just being like, please buy something after you take our, I don't know.
Well, like we've seen it. We've seen what happens. I mean, like a whole chain of our comic book store that we grew up with going to, it just isn't a thing anymore. And
right.
Like I feel bad for the retailers, people that invested in comics and provided comics for everybody for so long. And like, what does Free Comic Book Day mean when, this isn't even like a political thing, just like what does Free Comic Book Day mean when like, like the retailers are struggling to even keep their doors open? Probably just best to, I'm not saying like I hate Free Comic Book Day and it needs to die, but like, so like when during the pandemic, when we lost a lot of like music venues, let's say, like that was sad and that sucks. But then there was some that popped up out of it, like it's not really the same, but it's kind of the same because it's like the market and like how people are consuming things, like from streaming video to even streaming comics, and like with apps and stuff, like they could put all those free comic book comics that they paid to have released, like they could just put it on just an app, or like just give everybody the PDFs to download. Doesn't bring people to the store. But
right. Well, that's the thing, right? Like, I mean, but do they need to? You don't need to go to stores, I guess, is the problem, right? Or whatever. I mean,
yeah,
so maybe it does need. I don't know if you know of this. Actually, I happen to have this in front of me, as luck would have it. I don't know. It's a little racy. This comic here. Maybe I'll try to cover up this woman's bare behind. But there is this comic. This is Distillery.
what's it called?
This comic is called "You Won't Feel a Thing." It's by Scott Snyder and Jock. It's the company is Distillery.
Yeah, I know Distillery because I gave you some comics.
Yes, that's right. And but they're very cool. I mean, like, and they give away like they have a digital service on their website. You can obviously buy them in floppies, but they also have like they'll give away ash cans. Like it's sort of old school term. Like which is a small sample of what the larger book, entails. And so you can get those digitally, obviously, PDFs of them. And so maybe this is kind of the way to go, like something like that, where they're like, here's a few pages online, and then you can buy it. But
well, also they had, I remember that back when Prime was open and Distillery is getting started, they had like a pretty unique, like there's always like the final order cutoff for the store to buy the books.
right.
And in order for you to get any of the retailer incentive, like say you wanted I'll just say Frank Miller cover, right? Like you had to order, the store would have to order like a certain number of issues of every product on the line. So like if they're putting out 10 books, then, so you had to like kind of put in like, it was like an extra step to the final order cutoff. Like you had to be like, yes, I'm buying Think Tank. Yes, I'm buying that book. Yes, I'm buying that. And then you could like get the retailer incentive and stuff like that. So they do it like a little bit differently how they do their ordering and stuff. But in order for everybody, the publisher, the store, so they're not over ordering stuff just to have the retailer incentive copies and stuff like that. So very smart company. And, obviously Scott Snyder and Jock, like they wouldn't be in business with a place that was sketchy.
They're actually, I think at least Scott Snyder is like a part. They went in. It's almost like Image in a way because like they went in business with a lot of these creators, but it's the two guys who started Comixology, and then when Amazon bought them, they said okay. They just took the money and started this new company. So they have a lot of creators like on board, and I don't know what the creators get paid, but I'm sure it's more than what like the big companies pay. And they're pretty cool. I love this prestige format. I mean, like originally you think like, it's kind of annoying. It doesn't fit on the shelf or whatever, but they're really cool looking. The quality is great. But also if you wanted to just, read it, you can just they have their own subscription service. You go to Distilleries, go to the website, you sign up, you read whatever you want. So maybe that's the future or the present of comics, but
or like I just don't want it to like completely crash and burn. Like I want these retailers, small comic book shops, like I bet Diamond also owns like Find Your Local LCS or whatever, that Find Local Comic Shop website or whatever is probably one of the assets getting sold off or whatever.
I don't know.
And like what does it mean now when everybody gets everything delivered to themselves through Amazon or other places online, like the brick and mortar shop, which is like 40% of why we collected comics for most of our lives. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like a big part of it. But that community isn't there anymore after the pandemic. And like, I hope they continue making print comics, but there's no guarantee that they will.
Well, we'll have to see what happens. Like I said, Diamond is up for sale in about a month or so, and someone might buy it. I assume someone will buy it, right? I mean, I don't know, maybe not, but
Yeah, it's like, do you ever like have like, do you ever have a bank and then it's all of a sudden it's like, we're now this other bank.
yeah, of course.
Like, oh, I was Santander, now I'm Citizens or whatever. But that's what happens with these things. It's an asset that they're probably selling for like less than they think it's probably worth. And somebody's basically buying that debt and trying to like be like, okay, give us all your stuff and we'll take over. We'll run this like a business and we'll do things differently, but keep the brand name and everything.
Well, yeah,
but those people don't have to, like,
no, they don't have
keep
to.
Free Comic Book Day alive as the thing.
Yeah, they might look at
this is stupid
as a loss and be like, yeah, there's no point to it anymore. Like, which, it is, I think, just, as a whole, like, it's kind of like everything, though. Or many, like, we used to go to video stores every week, and streaming and whatever came along. We don't go to video stores anymore. We haven't for a long time, but like, and maybe comic book shops are just going to be like that, or whatever, know, like, I don't wish for it.
I don't wish for that either, especially like, we have friends that like worked at the stores, it's like sad that they have to do whatever they're doing for work now and not work at the store. And mostly because for their livelihood doing something they love doing, but also like we get to see them every week. It was like pretty cool.
It was cool to get to know that, you're a local comic shop person, but at the same time, like, I haven't been, and I don't necessarily miss that sort of like, oh, I gotta find the time to get to the store today. I don't know, but I don't know. It's tough. It's a weird, it's a funny situation.
But also like with the business part, like going back to like them selling it off or whatever, like, like there's like like Warner Brothers in DC, like just didn't release that Batgirl movie. And they are never going to release the Coyote versus Acme movie with Will Forte. And like, that's because of taxes and these assets and whatever they would have to do. And that sucks. But like, I really wish that weren't the case. But if Free Comic Book Day like disappears, that's also going to suck. But we're powerless against these big companies anyway.
Well, of course. And I guess the thing that would suck the most is one real retailer was like, it was fun to see like a family come in, or like a father and son, like, maybe introducing his little kid to comics or whatever. Or it might be something like, Dog Man, that movie, like they might like to try to, like introduce him to stuff like that or whatever. And he liked seeing that. And that was like a cool thing about Free Comic Day. But I don't know. I guess this is the harsh reality of it. But like comic book retailers are just going to have to find some other way to get people to come in. And that's just, I mean, if there is a Free Comic Book Day, then good. That's a good day for them probably. But they need to find people the other 364 days, of the year. Like you said, like, like an ice cream shop or whatever might make money in the summer and then the rest of the year they don't make anything. But I don't think Free Comic Book Day generates enough revenue, even if people do buy stuff.
No, it's just one day.
Yeah. They need like Free Comic Book months, Free Comic Book summer or whatever, is something that's going to get people in. And we saw like the ones around here were doing like Magic the Gathering tournaments and stuff and all that. So I don't know. Obviously, the rent around here is just too high, I guess. But
that stuff is still popular, and video games are still popular, and you know, like ideally we get a huge loan and we can start a business. Like, how cool would it
Sure.
be to have like a video game cafe where people could play like whatever Call of Duty, like that balance patch place, but also comic book
Right.
shop, and also like, you know, coffee and comics and tea don't go well with reading the comic,
Are you
but
gonna spill
you
them?
know, like,
Ah.
but like, you know, like I've always thought that would be like a cool idea. But if it's such a cool idea, how come a million people haven't done it? You know what I mean? It's like
I'm sure somebody
you
has. I
see it
was
in like
reading.
movies.
Yeah, I was reading. Chip Zdarsky has a great Substack, hilarious guy, and he was talking about he was doing a signing at this place in Toronto that was like a bar, and these guys who owned the bar were comic book fans, and their local store closed, and they said, "Well, we're just going to start getting comics here." Like, and so their bar
Well,
became
that's
like
kind
a
of cool.
comic. I forget what it's
That's what I
called
mean.
now. Yeah, like and I was like, man, that'd be awesome. You know, and I don't know if people uh, do they spill their drinks on the comics? I don't know, but I would think like, yeah, like a cafe, like even you go into like a Cafe Nero and they have like books around. They're kind of like for show, but you put some trades up there. I don't know. People would come in at least to get coffee, whether they bought a comic or not. I don't know, but
It's comic books is a tough business, and it just seems to be getting tougher. If the
yeah,
biggest
that's for
distributor
sure.
can't make money, then
Right.
fuck. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know. This is a personal part of it. I remember this is many years ago when John and I were looking at making a comic, and if Diamond even selected you, and if they distributed your comic, you had to pay them 60% of your sales. So we were like, no, there's no way to make money on that, like unless you're, a big retailer.
Unless you do volume.
Right. You'd have, and that's the other thing. You'd have to pay to print at least like 1,000 or whatever, we couldn't even get rid of a couple hundred. And then even if every store in the country just bought everything in Diamond, you know what I mean? Because then you'd have to go and be like, please, my comic's in Diamond, please buy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, final order cutoff.
Yeah, right. So it was hard, I think, for everybody. And I don't know if that's Diamond's fault. I don't know. But they did have a number of class action lawsuits against them for being a monopoly. And I don't know. So
that's why
result.
a couple years ago, DC was like, we're not doing that. And then the DC Comics were using another distributor, because really the distributor part is just logistics. They're like a logistics company. There's a Diamond catalog and all that, but really it's just people print book, get to stores. And for some reason, the new distributor, or maybe because DC was trying to like be different and like set themselves apart, they were like, our books are in stores on Tuesdays, so fuck you, Marvel and everybody. You get ours a day earlier.
Right.
But that screwed us up, because ever since we started doing the podcast, I do the weekly picks every week. So then I had to start doing them on Tuesdays. Then I was like, or then I would like use the Wednesday date, but I would have it say like for the week of this.
Right.
But I would have to, usually you have to get it out before Tuesday. That usually is like the formula. It's usually like a Marvel book, a DC book, an indie book, or I'm just like, I'll Star Trek this week or whatever. You know what I mean? Marvel, it might be like Marvel Dark Horse, G.I. Joe. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
But normally it's like a Batman or a Spider-Man or whatever. But yeah, I was like, damn, I got to do this like a whole day earlier just because their logistics company is shipping them on the Tuesday.
Yeah,
but they went back to Wednesday and Diamond.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's who knows, but there's some changes afoot, I think, and there probably should be because I don't know, it seems like stuff is happening. And when even you and I don't bother to go to stores anymore, but we still read. So
yeah, we're getting old.
Yeah, we are getting old, so I guess that's part of it too.
And then I was always like, kind of like, not look down on people, but I like when we were like for so long, we were so into it, and we were into like having a weekly show, into like reading the comics and having something to say about it, and like, you know, like God bless like fanboy for doing it for so long, just like that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But eventually, I would always kind of like be like, oh, you're waiting for the trade for Saga? I'm reading it as it's coming out.
Right.
Now it's
right.
like 2 years later, I'm like, oh, I should read the rest of Saga up to now on the iPad or whatever.
Yeah, you
know
have
what I mean?
an iPad. I know. I used to be a little judgy too. It's like, oh, well, why don't you just buy it every month? It's fine.
But it would be cheaper to wait for the trade, and
Of
you
course.
don't need to read it every week like
Right.
we used to do.
I know.
That was. But also, we would like, you know, you pay full price, but eventually at our store, like after a few weeks or something, like there would be like a discount on anything that was like 3 months older or something.
Not new arrivals. I mean?
Yeah, not exactly. New arrivals. They were cheap if you just waited.
But we couldn't wait.
But also we were like, because we were paying full price the day it came out, that was the whole point of the thing, and that kept the money flowing in there, kept our friends employed, kept them paying their rent, you know. Like, I guess I'm sure they still made profit off of the not new arrival books because they were like, okay, let's get this dead stock out of here, let's flip it out, you know. But still, you know, like logistically you could just wait for the trade now or whatever.
But you're not a real fan or whatever. That's what I would. And yeah, here I am thinking like, I'm keeping this place in business, and then they all closed anyway. So what does it matter?
Yeah, there's there's not anything we could do for the state of the whole world's economy or whatever, you know?
Right. I know. I mean, obviously I know we weren't keeping them in business with just our
but like
eager purchases.
Exactly what you were saying though, like us being fans, doing a podcast, going to the store every week, being into it, like getting asked to your thing on YouTube when you're at GBH like popped up the other day, like us doing all that stuff in celebration of comics, like our number one hobby, like we were really so into it, and like I wouldn't trade it for anything else. You know what I mean? The Wednesday Warrior stuff really worked for a long time.
Well, I wonder if we're not the only ones who have kind of, you know, not changed the way we consume our comic. I'm not ready to go full on like, but I've definitely lost some of the, you know, not enthusiasm. I still read them over my cornflakes, you know, or whatever, but it's different now. Going every week, there was kind of a pressure to like read those comics that week, because then it's like, otherwise I'm going to have a stack of unread comics like a mile long. So I don't know. It's not all bad, I'll just say, I guess, because I used to put tremendous pressure on myself, like I said, to always buy something and to always read them and keep everything and then think about them. And then, like, it was kind of like this weird, like, why aren't I enjoying this? So, we'll have to see what happens, I guess. I'm sure nothing really will change for you and I in the long run. We'll still get them however we get them. But yeah, you know what? We'll have to see. Maybe I'll throw a bid in for Free Comic Day. I don't think it'll.
Yeah, then you'd have to run it and figure that out.
Well, that's the other issue, which I didn't really get to. But yeah, like if somebody decides I want Free Comic Day and they buy that part of the business, not the rest of it, they're going to have to go through a distributor and they're going to have to find a way to get free comics from people. So Oh,
I mean, it's February now. Those
yeah.
books were probably already planned. They're probably already lettered. They're probably already,
Right.
they might not be printed, but they're probably like, if not like 100% done in the production line, they're probably like, because they come out with a list every year of like what the books are
The
going to be
list
and who's
is
working on it.
available if you want to go to freecomicbookday.com. I was almost going to do a share screen thing here, but I don't know. It might fuck up the whole thing. But go to freecomicbookday.com. They'll have the list of books that are available. Supposedly, Diamond is going to go forward with this. I don't know.
Well, also, like, even if they're like bankrupt and they sell stuff off, like, kind of like with business stuff, it's like they have to kind of take care of their stuff before
Right.
everybody like
Maybe it'll be
completely
2026
takes over.
free
Yeah,
comic book
you
day
think of
before
more like next year before
Right.
like those big changes.
Well, so yeah, really quick though. So we were talking about how it sort of used to usually coincide with a movie the first Saturday in May. This year, actually, Thunderbolts is coming out that weekend. So,
oh, cool! I want to see that.
Yeah, that looks pretty fun. We were talking a little bit off air. Captain America: Brave New World was just released. You didn't
give
see
me
it
a spoiler-free critique if you could, because I've yet to see it, but I do want to know your thoughts.
Here it was fine. I know like, we say that jokingly, but that's literally my critique. It's not bad. Like I wouldn't be like, oh god, that movie, but it wasn't also great. It was fine. And so here's the thing: like there were apparently a lot of rewrites and reshoots because there's a character. Probably anybody watching this might know. There's an Israeli woman.
Sabra.
Who was Sabra, yeah. But she's not Sabra in this final product because they didn't want to like have her be because of all the political, unrest and issues and whatever. They don't really want to make any statements or back, I mean, which I get. I mean, she has been retooled and she's not a superhero. She's just this agent and her character was completely rewritten. So you can kind of tell because the pacing is all off. And yeah, like it, whatever the movie was supposed to be was probably changed a lot. And I don't know, they probably did the best they could, but it's not great. And but it's fine. It's if you went to see it with no expectation, just like, I feel like killing an afternoon and go, you probably wouldn't be that disappointed, but also you're not gonna be like, oh my God, Marvel's back.
So it's impossible to do rankings now, but I'm going to give you a framing for a ranking that would say that there's 3 tiers: top tier Marvel, middle tier Marvel, lowest tier Marvel, which would be like Black Widow and Eternals. Like,
yeah,
where does it land?
I mean, it's
what I mean?
It's probably in the middle, but like lower end middle, I suppose. Like it's definitely better than Black Widow and Eternals and some of the more recent ones. But it's not like top tier, which like a lot of Marvel's movies were
they
top
used
tier
to be
in my
all
book. In my book,
the first wave, pretty much.
Yeah. Everything that came out, I was like, yes, so excited. And obviously that's going to change over, it's been since 2008. So, but yeah, it's kind of like, well, all right. It's not terrible, but it's not great. So I guess you could say it's firmly in the middle, but even like there are ones in the middle that I would probably put above this one, like a Doctor Strange or something, or whatever. But yeah, it's fine. I understand what happened. Sometimes these things happen. Movies get changed, they get rewritten.
Well, also it used to be called like Brave New World or New World Order.
New World Order. Yeah.
Like maybe let's not call it that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. It's weird when that stuff happens, but it happens and there's nothing you do. I mean, I suppose they could have done like a Wile E. Coyote or whatever that movie, just not put it out at all. But
yeah.
they didn't want to do that. So
right.
or what
Can you
was it
imagine?
Batwoman? Was that Batwoman? Was that a movie that?
Yeah, Batwoman.
Yeah.
And it was the Will Forte one was Coyote versus Acme.
Okay,
And,
sorry. Yes, yeah.
And I just had it. Oh, it looks like James Gunn kind of wrote part of it too. Story by, and John Cena. Like this, there was a tragedy of the Batgirl movie, which would be kind of like in the old DC EU, I guess. And it had a Batgirl. Batgirl's a cool character. Brendan Fraser was in it. And maybe it would be in the lower tier of the movies that weren't that great to begin with. Maybe it wasn't great, but they were like, no, they literally deleted it. They deleted the files. No one will ever see it. So it seems crazy to me, but I guess that's the deal.
Yeah.
And then something similar happened with this Coyote versus Acme thing, and Will Forte is like still trying to convince them, like, come on, why won't you put it out? It's supposed to come out in 2023, and Barbie replaced it in the schedule, and they're in ongoing talks. There's a sliver of hope that they're still talking about it. Like they didn't delete it like they did Batgirl,
right?
Which I would have loved to see. And the thing is, when they delete the files, it's not like you can go to a convention and buy a VHS copy of like the 70s Doctor Strange movie total bootleg thing. You know what I mean? It's just not anywhere.
This movie's gone.
Exist.
It's deleted. Gone. Yeah. It's crazy to think that.
That's
like,
so weird.
Hundreds of people work on a movie. You know what I mean? Like cast, the crew, editors, digital. You've seen those credits at the end of the movies with the digital, people or whatever. Hundreds of people work on every movie, and that one they were just like, nah. I mean, I'm sure someone could tell me a good reason, but I mean, if you don't want to put it out because it costs money to distribute a movie, just put it on your streaming service and the fans will watch it.
The fans will watch it. I mean,
I'm sure there's a reason, but it's ridiculous.
I watched the Black Adam movie. Like no one watched that movie.
That was supposed to be terrible.
It exists.
Right.
People will watch it. And it's fucking Batgirl, for Christ's sakes. You know what I mean?
I know.
Like, you know me, I only judge actors whether they have played Batman or haven't played Batman,
right?
Or if they played the Joker or haven't played the Joker. And I just watched in ramping up a more positive film discussion, because we've been doing film discussions lately. But I'll tell you, I told you about Will and Harper, which was just great. But you can watch the Gladiator 2 movie, which I didn't see in the theater. So we watched the first Gladiator last night with the Joker. Joaquin Phoenix is in
right, and Superman's dad.
Yeah, and Russell Superman's
Crowe.
Dad.
Yeah.
And that, and also I watched a movie that maybe I can get you guys to watch, because I think it kind of fits into a world of like North by Northwest, or like it's not that old, but like I watched The Sting twice this weekend.
Oh,
that movie is very, very good. It's got Robert Redford and Paul Newman, and it's fun. It's a gangster movie, and there's like a lot of cool stuff in it. I watched that movie. So those are my film recommendations. Regardless, The Sting was great, and Gladiator, great. You
might be able to convince us to watch The Sting. I'm sure we'll get the old man into that one.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Maybe speaking of that, check out all of our other podcasts. We've been talking about a lot of movies lately, as we said, over the last like 5 years, maybe. So they're all out. They're out there, LeaguePodcast.com or just at LeaguePodcast. And we have a bunch of videos like this on YouTube. This will probably be on YouTube someday, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably. You're
yeah.
the
We
guy.
turned the cameras on for this one.
Yeah.
In a way, we went back to our free comic book day roots by
Right.
going back to a League Podcast classic where we kind of talk about comic books.
Yeah, that's true. So check that out. Check out all of our old episodes if you like. They're out there somewhere, leaguepodcast.com. But leave us a review and a thumbs up and all that stuff. Follow us. And keep your eyes peeled for the second Clay Inferno Variety Hour. And if you ever see him out there doing an open mic, give him a laugh. So thanks for coming.
Or it'll be like Blues Brothers, and they'll be behind chicken wire and they're throwing glass bottles at me.
Well, it'll be like cans, or
right.
It'll be glass anymore. But
well, thanks to you, Durson.
Thanks to you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys later.
See you at Free Comic Book Day at the store.
That's right.
2032 when they bring it back.